Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley. I am your host and beat reporter, and I've been your beat reporter covering the Jacksonville Jaguars for On SI every single day since August 2019, and we are continuing to move forward through another offseason together. As always, you can always find our 100% free 24/7 boots on the ground coverage of the Jacksonville Jaguars each and every day when you follow us on social media such as Facebook and Twitter at Jaguars on SI. You can also find us at www.si.com/NFL/Jaguars. Hello, folks, and welcome to today's episode of the Jacksonville Jaguars Insider Podcast. My name is John Shipley, of course, and today we're going to be going through our official prediction for what the Week 1 offensive line looks like for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll be going from left tackle to right tackle. It's a position group where we know who the bulk of the guys are going to be. But it's also a position group to where there's a few different options at two spots in particular where it looks like the Jaguars truly can go into training camp with a let's start the best five, the best man who's going to start, etc. is who is going to start. Certainly seems like we are trending, toward the Jaguars, I'd say, actually having some open competition for some spots along the offensive line. Because it's been quite some time. I can't remember the last time somebody had to win a spot on the Jaguars offensive line. I would say 2022. And even that one's a little iffy. Jawan Taylor against Walker Little. It always felt like Jawan Taylor was going to win that job, etc., as the more experienced player. I think it was by 2 years, and he was going into his contract year against a guy in Walker Little who had just wrapped up his rookie year. The Jaguars just simply, and with all the host of additions they've made along the offensive line over the years, you knew who their starters were going to be. They just never really had much competition. You knew Brandon Sheriff was going to start when he was signed. You knew Anton Harrison was going to start. You knew Ezra Cleveland was going to start. You knew Mitch Morse was going to start over Luke Forner. All these things. And the Jaguars tried to feign competition a few times and try to make it look like they had competition going on, but they didn't. And I think that is going to be one of, in my opinion, the biggest differences with the new regime. They very clearly are not just wanting competition along the offensive line. They seem to be openly encouraging it. They seem to, I don't think poking and prodding is the right way to put it, but they've put out messages through their comments and press conferences to the media, etc., that, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is what we expect, and this is who has to, potentially up their game a little bit. I think they've been very open and transparent about that. They've been very open about how much they think the offensive line needs to improve, which it's substantial. Sheriff had a good season last year. Morse had an okay season. I thought Little had a strong season. Otherwise, Cam Robinson, very rough season. Anton Harrison, in my opinion, had taken a step back from where he was as a rookie. Ezra Cleveland and whoever they were starting at left guard throughout the year was kind of an issue. So, I think it's a unit that, as a whole, obviously needs to be better, but several individual pieces have to be better as well. And I think what you saw from the Jaguars and their investments into the offensive line, just between free agency and the draft, they added 6 new offensive linemen. 4 in free agency, 2 via the draft, and Wyatt Milam and Jonah Monheim. Obviously, in free agency, they added Patrick McCary, Robert Hainsey, Fred Johnson, not Jones, and, of course, Chuma Edoga. So, starting now, from left tackle to right tackle. I have Walker Little starting the season week 1 at left tackle. I think Little is now finally in a place where he's going to be kind of allowed to develop at left tackle and not just kind of ride the bench and get a couple games audition when something happens. He's only entered a season, a week one, once as a starting left tackle. And that was only because Cam Robinson was suspended. The Jaguars had no intentions of playing him over Cam Robinson at left tackle. Hence why, right when Cam Robinson came back, despite Walker Little being one of the NFL's best left tackles for the first month of the 2023 season, they moved Walker Little over to left guard. Not only does he look very unnatural at guard, but he gets injured in his first, I think it was first or second series at the position. Regardless, I think the Jaguars have a good left tackle in Walker Little. I don't think Fred Johnson's going to push him very much, though he is, of course, now at least there. So Walker Little knows that, he does have someone pushing him. I don't think any sense of Walker Little being given the job, etc. I just think Walker Little is the clear, undisputed top left tackle on the roster. And as a result, that's where he and the Jaguars find themselves at the left tackle position. I think now you move it over to the spot to left guard. This, to me, is where things get interesting. I think that you will see Ezra Cleveland start training camp as a starting left guard. The first couple weeks, as they get in the pads, etc., I think you'll see Ezra Cleveland taking, I'd say, vast majority of the snaps, honestly. At least to start camp. And I know people are certainly going to have some reactions to that and think that means that there's no chance Wyatt Milam is therefore going to start as a rookie. But I do think that there's a chance. I do think you potentially see Wyatt Milam as early as week one. But I think at some point in the year, you do see Wyatt Milam. Right now, who am I going to project as their week one starter? I'm going to take a swing, and I'm going to say Wyatt Milam. I think Ezra Cleveland opens camp as a starter. They get into a contested battle for it. Comes down pretty close. And in my opinion, if the battle's close, you might as well lean with the rookie. Because the veteran should be further ahead of him, etc. At center, there's no real debate here. Robert Hainsey. I'm interested, honestly, in if they carry a true backup center. Because you have the flexibility, and we will talk about him in a second, in Patrick McCarry to the point where I'm not positive they even need to have a second center make the 53-man roster. And if they do, maybe it can be a guy like Jonah Monheim, who's a clear, healthy scratch each game. I'm just not sure there's much of a reason to have Luke Fortner if you already have a guy who can move over a spot to play it, and that his versatility is a reason they added him to begin with. So Robert Hainsey, I think the clear starting center for the Jaguars in 2025. I don't think things get interesting there really at all. Hainsey is clearly the guy. At right guard, another situation where there's clearly a guy. Patrick McCarry, I think, is starting the regular season at right guard. He was their biggest fish in the offseason, biggest contract that they paid out. His versatility, I think, is the biggest reason that you pay him. Is he the best guard in the NFL? No. Is he one of the best guards in the NFL? No. But how many other guards in the NFL can step in at center, can step in at left tackle, can step in at right tackle? There's just not many of them. So I think that he gives them a quality option at a position. Maybe not a Pro Bowl one, maybe not an All-Pro one, but when you factor in his positional versatility and what he can allow the Jaguars to do in the event there ever is any kind of injury along the offensive line, which, let's be honest, it's bound to happen at some point. So I think adding him is a big plus from that perspective, and that's why I see him playing a big role this year. Finally, at right tackle, I have Anton Harrison winning the battle against Chuma Edoga. I think it will be closely contested. I think Chuma Edoga will get plenty of chances to win it. But to me, the Jaguars should hope that Anton Harrison wins this job. They should be rooting for Anton Harrison to walk away with this job as the starting right tackle, because then if he does, then the Jaguars potentially don't have to worry about adding an offensive tackle next offseason, especially considering the fact that they won't have a first-round pick. If you need a tackle, and if the Jaguars finish with a poor record as a result of their lack of options at tackle, then they're in a pretty rough position in 2026. But I think Walker Little, Anton Harrison, starting day one, left tackle, right tackles. There's a lot of ceiling, a lot of potential there. The Jaguars just have to hope they can reach it. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. Please make sure you find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all other podcast platforms. And also don't forget to find us on YouTube at Sports Videos on SI.